The cook is in the kitchen.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Well, folks, welcome in. The Buffalo Bills opened mandatory minicamp on Tuesday, and we've got plenty of nuggets to dive into, including comments from Josh Allen, comments from Sean McDermott, comments from James Cook, who was in attendance. But we start with the addition of linebacker Shaq Thompson, former Carolina Panther, 31 years old, was a 2015 first-round pick by the Carolina Panthers out of Washington. And boy, was he a fun player to scout. You know, people talk about Travis Hunter and the impact that he made as a two-way player. Well, Shaq Thompson did that too. His last season at Washington, he was a running back and a linebacker. Had over 500 yards from scrimmage, had a few punt returns. Shaq Thompson was really a fun player to watch in college. Winds up being a first-round pick, and of course he plays defense as a linebacker for the Carolina Panthers. And that 2015 team, you had Brandon Beane in the front office, you had Sean McDermott as a defensive coordinator, and they made this draft pick, a first-round pick in Shaq Thompson, while they still had Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis. And so that was definitely a player they wanted to have, and he had a great run with the Carolina Panthers, 112-game starter for the Carolina Panthers. That's a long tenure, especially when you consider the injuries that happened over the last couple of seasons. Unfortunately, he's only played in 6 games over the last 2 seasons because he's had some pretty big injuries. In 2023, a broken fibula. In 2024, a ruptured Achilles. Not great. Prior to that, his 8 seasons prior, he played in at least 14 games. And so he'd been a durable player. The last 2 years just have not went his way. And so I've watched Shaq Thompson for a long time. He's a good starting NFL linebacker. Obviously, it's a big unknown in terms of where he's at right now after 2 big injuries in the last 2 seasons, and he's on the wrong side of 30. He's 31 years old. And so this is really interesting to me because you've heard me talk repeatedly this offseason, especially over the last few weeks, about how the Bills haven't made a single move at linebacker, not one, outside of a UDFA that's really a hybrid safety linebacker. The top 6 from last year, all back. Every single one of them back. And there's a lot of youth. You know, Terrell Bernard entering his 4th season. Matt Milano, of course, the experienced guy, but all the other guys are on their rookie contracts. Very unproven depth. Outside of Dorian Williams, Balin Spector, Adefwan, Ulafosio, Joe Andreessen. There's some likable names, but not a ton of experience. Certainly not the type of depth that doesn't need some competition. And that's exactly what Shaq Thompson provides. He can come in here and be the veteran competition for this group. And I think every single one of those players deserves to earn their roster spot. And I don't know what to expect from Shaq Thompson after 2 significant injuries, the most recent one being a ruptured Achilles. But we know that he has familiarity with McDermott. We know that the Bills need some competition for the linebacker depth. And there's really no downside. I think it's a good addition at this point, all things considered. And probably about time the Bills found some competition for the linebacker depth. I look a lot at Balin Spector. And Balin Spector was a good player at Clemson, has good size, has good athleticism. He just has not been consistently available. Tons of injuries, especially for a guy that doesn't play much, right? Guy gets injured in practice all the time. And certainly the last 2 years have not been kind to Shaq Thompson on the injury front, but Balin Spector, last year of his contract, maybe Shaq Thompson can bump him off the roster. Now, there's always the special teams component, and I think that's really fascinating because the Bills right now have less special teams niche players than they typically do. And Shaq Thompson, he's been a starting linebacker for a long time. So if you're going to be rostered as a depth linebacker, you kind of have to play special teams. And I think that complicates a number of the Bills' roster spots. Look at wide receiver. You look at corner with Trey White. Not really going to help you on special teams. If he doesn't start, he's going to be an inactive corner. Those are definitely things to keep in mind when you're trying to sort all this out. But I think all things considered a very useful signing at this point in the process. I don't know if he'll make the roster or not, but again, no downside. And another note here on this is your third linebacker is Dorian Williams. And I like Dorian Williams a ton. And I love his development to this point. But one thing that Dorian Williams hasn't been able to prove is his ability to play Mike linebacker. Shaq Thompson gives you that. And so your primary backup to Terrell Bernard at middle linebacker has been Balin Spector, who's not been reliable. Then you get to Joe Andreessen. I think that's where you can really find a lot of the logic in adding Shaq Thompson, is knowing that you need somebody that you can trust to be the first guy in for Terrell Bernard, where your actual third linebacker, Dorian Williams, much better playing in the Milano role. I think that's an important layer to this addition. One other note here in terms of recent roster additions. Over the weekend, the Bills signed defensive tackle Marcus Harris. The corresponding move was releasing Devin Brant Epps, UDFA defensive tackle. And the Bills are now at 91 players. They can have 91 because Travis Clayton is part of the International Pathway Program. So when the Bills added Marcus Harris over the weekend, they released Devin Brant Epps, but they signed Shaq Thompson. There's no corresponding move because the Bills are allowed to have 91 players. So now they are fully at 91. Any player that the Bills add, there must be a corresponding move. Real quick on who Marcus Harris is, 2024 7th-round pick out of Auburn by the Houston Texans. He was cut after preseason by Houston, signed to Houston's practice squad. He was released from their practice squad in October. A couple days later, the New England Patriots signed him to their practice squad. He stayed on the practice squad for the Patriots for the rest of the year, signed a futures contract, and then he was released at the end of April, and now he's a Buffalo Bill. 6'2", 286 pounds, so not a ton of size. Relative athleticism score of a 5.52 out of 10. Had 12 tackles for loss and 7.5 sacks his last year in college for Auburn. So the guy's on his third team in 15 months. Not great for a young player, but another guy that's in the mix here at defensive tackle for the Buffalo Bills. All right. Next up, I want to get into the James Cook stuff. He's in attendance. He practiced. What did he say? What did Sean McDermott say? We'll get into all that here on the other side of it. Folks, be sure to stick with me. The NBA Finals are in full swing, and every game delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And, folks, I've had a lot of fun betting with FanDuel during the NBA Finals and the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, getting in on I've been betting the over on the goals, getting in on, Sam Bennett. I've been riding that hot hand quite a bit. In the NBA Finals, SGA, just bet the over on that guy. He always delivers. And baseball has been really fun, too. They give you some nice profit boosts for some of the baseball stuff each night. So plenty of great stuff to get in on over at FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, folks, James Cook. Let's talk about it. In attendance, all players in attendance for mandatory minicamp. And we've seen some players across the NFL that didn't show up for mandatory minicamp. Trey Hendrickson with the Bengals, Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith of the Dolphins. There's guys that are not there. TJ Watt with the Steelers. But what's different about those players and James Cook, established veterans versus guys that are still ultimately on rookie contracts. Sauce Gardner showed up with the Jets. The rookies are going to show up, or the guys on rookie deals are going to show up. And so what is interesting about this is over the weekend, we get the report from Adam Schefter that he doesn't expect James Cook to be in Buffalo anytime soon. Well, maybe anytime soon to him meant in the next few hours, because he was there on Tuesday. I had some information to me on Monday that he was in the building on Monday. And so James Cook in attendance. Sean McDermott, when asked about that, said, I credit James. Business is business at the end of the day. And I know he loves being around this team. I appreciate him being here. James Cook practiced, which, once the initial reports came out on Tuesday that James Cook was in the building, the question became, well, is he holding in? Is he going to participate? Well, he participated in practice in full. James Cook did meet with the media after the practice. I'll give you some of the things that he said. Of course, when he was asked why he was there, he said, I like my money. That's why I'm here. I'm here because I'm part of the team. To win a Super Bowl, to have a winning team, I have to be out there. He said that he plans to fully participate in training camp, was complimentary of the communication with the Bills brass, saying communication has been great, said everything is business, there's no hard feelings. He was asked if he wanted to play more this year. He said, I don't look at snap count percentages. I just know that when I'm on the field, I make things happen. Okay, James, maybe you should look at snap count percentages, because that's one of the leading reasons why there's not a deal done, man. You want to get paid like backs that play 25, 30% more snaps than you. So, yeah, we get it. I'm not surprised to hear that you don't look at snap count percentages. I wouldn't want to either if I were you. He was also asked about seeing all the other guys get paid, especially from his draft class. Khalil Shakir, Terrell Bernard, Christian Benford, all from his draft class, already got paid. And he said, does that make you upset? And he's like, no, I'm happy for them. I think one of the important things to come out of all of this James Cook stuff is the reality of the business side of the NFL, and players aren't mad at other players for getting contracts. I think genuinely football players, and we've heard Jerry Ostrowski talk about this on Bill's Squad, you're rooting for everyone to have that success and to get the money, right? It's a very small percentage of football players that get to this level, even smaller percentage that get these types of contracts. You're not trying to get in the way of somebody else, right? Like, he's not mad that other guys are getting paid. Other guys aren't mad that he's trying to get paid, right? There's two sides of that. And every piece of commentary that has come out of the Bills, from players, coaches, everybody kind of gets it. It's annoying, but these are complicated negotiations with a lot on the line. It's a limited resource environment, to quote my buddy Bruce Nolan. If you had unlimited resources and there wasn't a salary cap, yeah, pay them all. Who cares? But that's not That's not where it's at, and so therefore things can be a little bit tricky to work out. But I thought James Cook came in, said the stuff he needed to say. He participated, gave us strong indicators that he's going to participate in training camp, and talked about winning the Super Bowl quite a bit. And I think ultimately, like, that's what I want to see happen. I don't think James Cook and the Bills are on the same page. That's fine. We can live with that. All right, everything from this point is mandatory. Be there. Go have the season that you need to have, and whether it's the Bills or some other team, like, the money's going to be there. But step one is playing out this season and maximizing the opportunity. Because the only team you can get a contract done with right now is the Bills. And it doesn't feel like the two sides are close on that. So go have a great season and leave no doubt as to what your value is. And if the Bills don't meet it, some other team will. I think that's kind of what makes sense at this point based on James Cook entering his fourth season under contract with the Bills, the discrepancy in valuation of the player. Just go have a great year. The best thing you can do to get the money that you want is to go out and have a great year. And has he had 2 great years? Yeah, but they're still missing pieces, or at least missing pieces that add up logically to the dollar amount that he wants. If you want to get paid like Derrick Henry, well, you got to produce like Derrick Henry. You want to get paid like Saquon Barkley, you got to produce like Saquon Barkley. James Cook's had great seasons, but he is not that. We'll see what 2025 has in store. In terms of other participation notes, there's a growing list of guys that did not participate in practice on Tuesday, and certainly it sounds like they're not going to practice this week. And so Sean McDermott, prior to the practice, gave us this list of players that would not participate. And he also said, look, before I give you this list, he said, there's no concern that any of these players are in danger of missing the start of training camp. And he really talked about, hey, look, we're trying to get ahead of stuff right now. We want the players to be really honest if they have anything going on, so that way things aren't going to linger and we can make sure that guys are ready to go in training camp. So the Bills, rightfully so, are very, very cautious with any types of injuries right now. This is the list of players that did not practice. KJ Hamler at wide receiver, Taron Johnson, although Sean McDermott said that he wouldn't participate, and the beat reporters said he was a limited participant. Cam Lewis didn't participate. Connor McGovern, Bill's starting center, didn't participate. Joey Bosa, we knew that one. Balin Spector, I'm stunned. Cole Bishop, that one, that felt like a gut punch when I heard that Cole Bishop wasn't practicing. I did not like hearing that. And Damar Hamlin. Then Sean McDermott didn't mention Ty Johnson, but the beat reporters in attendance said that Ty Johnson was only on the stationary bike the entire practice. So KJ Hamler, Taron Johnson, Cam Lewis, Connor McGovern, Joey Bosa, Balin Spector, Cole Bishop, Damar Hamlin, Ty Johnson, your current Bills players that didn't practice in full on Tuesday. Also, Shaq Thompson, day one with the team. He is still coming back from the Achilles injury, so he didn't practice, but he was in attendance. When I look at that list of injured players, what stands out to me is the opportunity for Jordan Hancock and Derek Forrest. You have Taron Johnson and Cam Lewis not available. Big time opportunity for Jordan Hancock to get slot reps. That doesn't mean that maybe Takori Couch or Daquan Hardy aren't getting slot reps, but you feel like Jordan Hancock is the highest profile addition in terms of investment in a player. He's getting a lot of run, and that's meaningful. Derek Forrest at safety. I mean, you're down a little bit here. You're down. You got Taylor Rapp in there, but you're not with Cole Bishop or Damar Hamlin. Cam Lewis not practicing. What a chance for Derek Forrest to get some meaningful reps. So the downside is the downside because players you want to be available aren't, but great opportunities for 2 new additions in Jordan Hancock and Derek Forrest to get some opportunity. And I like both of those young players, and that's the silver lining. All right, coming up here on the other side of it, Sean McDermott and the married man, Josh Allen, both met with the media. I'll tell you what was interesting from those press conferences here on the other side of it. Folks, be sure to stick with me. Say goodbye to sticky notes, scribbled plans on the fridge, and overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight Calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. This sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars, Google, Apple, Outlook, and more, making it simple to track appointments, practices, dinners, and reminders all in one easy-to-see place. Folks, I've got 2 young kids at home. My wife and I were constantly running around to different things. The Skylight Calendar helps keep us organized. I personally love being able to look at the whole week on that beautiful 15-inch HD screen. It keeps us organized, less overwhelmed, and I know my wife certainly appreciates not having to remind me about all the things that are going on. So check it out, folks. Right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. Go to skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/NFL. All right, let's get into these comments from Sean McDermott and Josh Allen. Sean McDermott was asked about Matt Milano. Said he was dialed in, physically looks good, and commented that it's the first time in a few years that he's not rehabbing. It's a good point, right? Fortunately, tibial plateau fracture, took away from his ability to get ready for the season. The bicep injury. It's the first time in a couple of years Matt Milano's got ready to play a football season by getting ready to play a football season and not rehabbing an injury. Big year for Matt Milano. Took a pay cut with the opportunity to earn it back with incentives, but the win for Matt Milano is that he gets to free agency a year early. A lot of incentive for Matt Milano to go out and have a great year, and I'm excited to see what happens, right? Hopefully he can stay healthy, him and Terrell Bernard, and be the impact playmakers that we know they can be. McDermott was asked about Deion Walker, Bills' 4th-round pick. Of course, the backstory there is a back injury was discovered during the NFL scouting combine, and he's been working on fixing that. And Brandon Beane said after they drafted him that they would have a ramp up, take a slow approach with him. And Sean McDermott gave us some insight into what that plan was. He said he went from no reps to up to 4 reps per period. So if you've never been to a football practice, the entire practice is broken into periods. Could be 10, 15 different periods where you'll do certain things in each period. McDermott said he went from 0 reps to 4 reps per period, and in the next day or so, they're going to get him to 5 reps per period, and then he said that when they get to training camp, they'll pick up where they left off. But feels like there's some good momentum for Deion Walker, and there's obviously a plan in place to ramp him up. When asked about Maxwell Hairston, Bills' 1st-round pick, corner out of Kentucky, Sean McDermott said he has a vibrant personality with a great smile, said he's learning the playbook and techniques, getting onboarded, said he's been intent on getting better and has a purpose every day, and talked about how he has elevated since he joined the team. He was asked about Jackson Hawes, Bills draft pick out of Georgia Tech, the blocking tight end. He was asked about what makes a good blocking tight end. And he said, you have to love the friction and the confrontation. You have to want to be in a street fight. His personality suggests that he's like that. Some like it, some don't. We'll see what we get when training camp comes. And of course, any football coach is going to tell you these reps right now are great, but it's not full contact. And until the pads come on, we don't really know. And Sean McDermott certainly understands that. But Jackson Hawes is definitely wired a little bit different. I think he's going to be just fine once the pads come on. Sean McDermott was asked about Dorian Williams. He said, Dorian is as physical as there is on our defense. I totally agree with that. Said he loves the noise and the contact. Said he's continuing to grow and learn the position. So the game moves fast on the second level. You have to process quickly. He's grown in that area and continues to close the gap to where he needs to be. I think it's good commentary on Dorian Williams where, he's fast and physical. The story has been, can he get the processing speed And boy, was the year 1 to year 2 jump significant. And I'm happy to hear that that's continuing to grow. And it certainly feels like the perception that the team has of where he's at lines up with kind of where my commentary has been as well. Sean McDermott also very passionately talked about how they're going to play young players on defense. And there's been a very false narrative about Sean McDermott not wanting to play young players. It's not true. I've disproved that so many different times by going through different draft classes and talking about guys that have started and played in year 1. But Sean McDermott felt some type of way when he was, going in on playing young guys on defense. And I think it's inevitable of just the roster right now with the Bills, with 5 draft picks in a row to start the draft on defense. Those guys got to come in and play. And, we talked the episode I just did on defensive metrics that must improve. Like, there's some significant problems from this defense last year. You need some new players in there. You need some heightened athleticism. You need a higher ceiling. And I think the Bills did what they needed to do this offseason to add that. Josh Allen met with the media, and he was asked about the James Cook situation. He said he's proud that he's here. Said, I want everyone to get paid what they're worth. Called James Cook one of the best backs in the league. On Hard Knocks being part of the equation for training camp, he said, we just have to keep doing what we're doing. We've had success. He said, we can't let things deter what we do. It is what it is. On the Olympics, and the NFL voted to allow NFL players to compete in the Olympics, the new flag football that's coming through. Josh Allen was asked about, whether or not he'd want to participate. I thought he had a great answer. He said, I'm not going to disrespect the guys that are playing flag football right now, but if there's an opportunity for me to try, I would absolutely love to, and talked about what a great honor it would be to represent the country. I was wondering what his appetite would be for this, and it sounds like he wants to do it. And I think if you have a quarterback, it's a little different than if you maybe have a corner or a receiver, right? A little bit less concern, but obviously the only concern is injuries. But how cool would it be to see Josh Allen as a quarterback for Team USA and flag football? Like, I think that's really cool. On the tush push, which stays, right? Josh Allen said, if you can use it to your benefit, great. And then he started talking about, like, if defenses don't like it, he said, find a way to stop it. He said, defensive players don't like us dancing in the end zone. He's like, well, don't let us get there. And so he didn't really get into safety or anything like that. He said, if you can use it to your benefit, great. And that's my expectation. Sean McDermott said they're going to play within the rules. The rules say you can do it. They've done it in the past. Josh Allen came out and said, if you can use it to your benefit, great. The Bills have used it to their benefit. I think the Bills will be a tush-push team, and they should be. It's a good play for them. It's a good play for them. I'm looking for maybe some variety off of it. Kansas City certainly has some things figured out with the Bills tush-push, but it's been a wildly successful play for the Bills, and I think for 2025, it will continue to be utilized by Josh Allen and company. All right, folks. The Bills will be back on the practice field on Wednesday. They're supposed to be back on the practice field on Thursday, but it feels like Sean McDermott and most coaches in the NFL cancel that last day. We'll see what happens. But whatever's going on at One Bills Drive, we'll be covering it for you here on Locked On Bills. So don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.